Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Breakfast with Jesus. Hope you had an awesome weekend. Yeah, it's Monday, but well, they come and they go, so we'll be all right. I promise. No, it's good. Good to be with you and looking forward to another good week of just sharing whatever God's got in store for us because it's all good, it's all wonderful because that's just how he is. And anything to the contrary deserves a lot of pushback from us because it just doesn't, his will be done, right? As it is in heaven, so on earth. So good morning, man. Look at you guys just piling in here and jumping in to join me this morning. Wow, so cool. Good to see you all. Jane, good morning. Linda, good morning. Ted, good afternoon from Germany. Good to see you. Kevin, good morning. Carol, good morning. Yes, in New Jersey, absolutely. Donna, good morning, and Jack, good to see you. Jade and Marion, good morning. Appreciate you guys taking a few minutes to join me and hang out for a while as we share some thoughts. Um, yeah, we've been, kind of digging into this idea of fruitfulness. Last week, we began looking at some of these things that Jesus said about us, about who we are, what our potential looks like, what we're capable of. Once we come into this relationship with God through Christ, man, it just like it blows the doors off our limitations. And I know that could be a new concept for you. It could also be something that you look at that and go, well, I don't really see any difference. It's all right, trust me. We're all works in progress. We didn't come into this world having everything, fully mature and ready to go. We had to grow into uh, our capabilities and our personality and everything that there is about us, right? We grew into that. Well, it's no different in this new life that we have with God, right? We grow into the the new realities of who we are. Why? Because we've asked Jesus to come into our life, and we've asked him to just kind of be the person in us that we are supposed to be, right? We are one with him, and his characteristics, his abilities become infused with ours, so that we're a new creation. That's what the Bible says, right? We're a new creature, never before seen, a new species of being that is one with the God of the universe. I mean, it's just bizarre, but yet that's what he did. It's what the Bible teaches. So, part of that equation is that we've been given this really amazing privilege and responsibility to be like him in some very specific ways. And so, one of the ways that we've been talking about here, of course, is this idea of fruitfulness, which is, the Bible's way of describing creativity. When God first created Adam and Eve, as I've mentioned before, what did he say? Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule. And so, this idea of fruitfulness is obviously first and foremost, it has to do with procreation and having children, but it goes so far beyond that. It's an analogy, it's a principle, a metaphor for what we are truly like, because God made us in his image. He's a creator. Therefore, you and I have creative abilities. Now, I know, whenever I talk about this, there's always going to be at least one person in the crowd that's go, oh, I'm not creative. I can't draw. I can't sing. I can't, we have these certain uh, ways of defining creativity that have to do with the arts, or some special talent and whatnot. And creativity spans the entire array of what we as humans are capable of. I don't care what you are good at. there is a measure of creativity involved in that, that where you could take it beyond a certain level. You could do something new. You could come up with a new idea, a solution, a different way of approaching, a problem or some circumstance. That's creativity. And so we want to look at this because honestly, if we don't function as creators, little c, okay, he gets the big C as the creator. We'll stick with the little c. But if we don't function as creators on some level, we're not going to have the kind of life that he designed us to have. It's not going to be the kind of fulfilling and satisfying life that we absolutely were created to enjoy. And so, here's just a couple of Old Testament verses that I think help us to see the creativity aspect of our nature. Psalm 128, verse 2 says that when you shall eat the fruit of your hands, you will be happy and it will be well with you. Now, the fruit of your hands, that just means something that you do, what you create by working at something. Okay. I mean, you can't get clearer than that. When you partake of that, the eating thing here is metaphorical, right? We eat of it by enjoying that which we are creating and the results of what we are creating. When you do that, you're going to be happy. God wants us to be happy. That's not a heretical statement. That's his heart. He's a good father. He wants us as his kids to be happy. And he's telling us that it's going to be well with us if we will focus on, okay, so what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be creating here as a son or daughter of God? Proverbs 12:14 says something similar. A man will be satisfied with good by the fruit of his words, and the deeds of a man's hands will return to him. So that's talking about how what we say, what we create, perhaps that is verbal or written sort of things. If that's your forte, you like to write, you like to create in that way. This is talking about that. So it's not so much, physical things that you're doing, but now this is more, mental and creating out of that sort of a realm. So it covers everything. It just, and that's what we were created by God to do. Being created in his image means that we are creative at our core. And I personally believe, if you look at Psalm 139, when David writes about how each of us are fearfully and wonderfully made. In other words, God intentionally made each of us with a unique combination of talents and gifts and abilities that really describe what our creativity can look like. And so the thing that I wanted to focus on with you today is that our creativity doesn't happen by accident, right? It's not something that just automatically pours out of us. It takes intentionality. I mean, think about it. From its most basic concept, procreation requires intention. You don't make a baby accidentally. It just doesn't happen. All right. There's great intention involved in that process. And it's no different in any other creative process that we get involved in. And one of the more fascinating, I think, looks at what this looks like, right, is actually found in Psalm number 1, which talks about our fruitfulness, but it describes what stops it, what prevents us from being fruitful. So Psalm 1 says, "How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord." And that's talking about being so focused on what God says to us, right? And just loving to hear from Him in terms of what are you telling me about who I am and what you have for me, right? That's what that's talking about. And in His law, He meditates day and night. Our focus is always going to be on God. What are you saying? What are you telling me about who I am, about what you've given me, and what I'm to do with that, right? Here's where it gets very interesting. It says, uh, and he will be like a tree planted firmly by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In whatever he does, he prospers. Wow, what a beautiful description of a life well lived. And how do you get there? Well, in the first verse, it kind of gives us the opposite, the things that prevent us from living that kind of life. The first thing it talks about is don't walk with people who give you bad advice, who are giving you advice that doesn't line up with what God says about you, about the life He created you for, right? Who discourage you, who try to hold you back, who try to convince you that the dreams that you have, are not valid, or that you'll never achieve these wild ideas that you have, right? If that's the kind of folks that you've surrounded yourself with, run, do not walk to the nearest exit. All right, seriously, because that you will never be able to actually perceive and go for what God's created you for if that's the environment that you're living in. And then the next one is standing in the path of sinners. Well, what is that talking about? Well, when we stop walking, right, we stand. Now, think about this. There's a progression that's happening here. Walking, standing, finally sitting. If I stay in an environment of negativity and where I get discouraged, well, guess what? I am going to all of a sudden just stop out of total hopelessness or despair, discouragement. And I'm going to stand there and I'm going to become one of those who stops believing in what God says. And that's what a sinner is all about. When I didn't know God, I didn't know, I could care less what He thought or said about me and all the amazing promises that He's made, to each one of us. I didn't care about that. I just wanted to do my thing and go out there and whatever. Let's be honest. That's how any one of us that got saved, at some point when we have a history. All right. If you got a history, you know what I'm talking about. Obviously, there's some that are very blessed to be, they got born again when they were like toddlers and they don't know, but any of us that know our history, you got a history. Well, this is what it's talking about. The idea of a sinner here is basically people who are disconnected, who don't hear from Him because they just want their own thing, right? And so you see this progression happening where, okay, I was, I was walking with these people who nothing but bad advice, they're making me feel like I'm worthless, like I'm no good, right? So I stop, and now all of a sudden I'm done. I can't continue to believe what God is saying, right? But then the final thing, which is so scary, talks about sitting in the seat of scoffers. What is that? Well, that's when your heart becomes so hard because you've given up on everything that now you mock, you make fun of people who are, going after something that, to you looks like, wow, how stupid is that? Who do they think they are? They can't do that. You become one of the people that was affecting you negatively at some point in your life. That's, you become settled. You're sitting in that place where now, you see somebody that's going after their destiny and their purpose. You're going to make fun of them. You're going to mock that. You're going to, it's not a good place to be. It's just not. But that's the progression. So any one of these things, right? That if we're in any of that, any one of these situations, it's time now to break out of that. It's time to change your mind, change your perspective, and say, yeah, 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 I don't want that. I'm, you know, I don't want to become someone who is so settled in his unbelief and his, refusal to accept what God says about who you are and what He wants for your life. That I'm wasting my life. Really, that's what it's all about. And there is this thing inside of each of us that wants. We want to be significant, right? We want our life to have purpose and meaning. You know, I never understood the attraction of existentialism as a philosophy, right? Folks that are in that, they really believe that there's no meaning, that you're here, you live, you die, and you disappear, and there's nothing. It's like, wow, what, why not just kill yourself now? You know what I mean? It's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. But that is the kind of mindset that comes out of what is written here in Psalm 1. And so wherever if I'm finding myself in any one of these places, I have to stop. I've got to go, okay, God, you're right. you know and I don't know, once you get into the seat of the scoffers, it's hard. It's really hard, because you basically have made a settled decision. I'm gonna not accept what God says. Man, don't do that. Just don't do that. Make up your mind right now. You're not gonna do that. But what I wanted to point out is that each of these is a series of choices. This doesn't happen accidentally. You don't walk with people who are messed up, accidentally. You make a choice to walk with folks like that, right? Or you make a choice to stay walking with them. Maybe you're born into a situation where people around you are all negative. Okay, that can happen. Or you are, if you got raised up in a particular church environment or some other organization where everybody was like that. All right, so maybe you had no choice initially, but there's always a choice after that. Am I going to stay here? Right? Standing and then sitting. Each of these are deliberate, intentional choices that we can make, and we can make choices to stop. All right. And so, in order for us to become this beautiful description of a tree firmly planted, I love that. You know, a tree firmly planted by streams of water. I mean, a tree like that, it's got everything it needs, right? It's secure in the ground. It has a constant supply of water, right? The air that it needs to be able to function in the sunshine and it's like, wow, you're lacking nothing. See, that's the picture that God has for us, is see yourself as someone like that. Make choices that posture and position yourself in that place. Say, okay, God, I'm going to hear what you say. I am going to receive what you have for me, because this is the picture of the life that you have, bearing fruit in its season. It says the result of that is that it yields fruit in its season. Its leaf does not wither. In other words, it's constantly healthy and growing, right? I know that that's not what you typically see with trees, especially in our area. We've got the change of seasons and the leaves wither and fall, but this is a supernatural analogy of what God says. This is what I want for every single person, to be that kind of a secure child of mine that doesn't fear, that is functioning fully in everything that I've created you to be and to do, right? And to see that picture of wow, the leaves never get, they never yellow and get wrinkled and drop off, right? They're always happening, right? In whatever he does, he prospers. That's what it says here. And see, that is what creativity is all about. we, we get to create things that not only bless people, because what we're called to create is meant to be a blessing to help other people, but it also comes back on us. It says in that proverb I read that the deeds of a man's hands will return to him. And that's what, God's not against us prospering in what he's called us to do, because he's a good daddy. He wants every single one of us to not only enjoy what we've been created to do, but to receive blessing ourselves as we bless others with the thing that we're called to be and to do, right? It comes back. It just comes back. I mean, that's just how he operates, right? It's how things work. So, how can you get to a place where you start functioning in this? And, again, remember, we're saying that this doesn't happen by accident. So there's some intentionality that we've got to bring to the table so that we're able to start looking at this and say, okay, so what's mine? Who am I? What am I to do? Right. And so what I typically will suggest is take some time and make a list. Write down your talents. What are you good at? What do you know that you're good at? Right. What kinds of gifts do you have, in terms of, abilities that where things are like, they're just easy for you. I mean, my eldest child, she's just an amazingly gifted artistically, right? But she also has a gift that I didn't know until she began to, mess around with it and start to do it. And that is the gift of organizing. I mean, she came in and organized my workbench area as a surprise for me one time. And I'm like, whoa, what happened in here? It was like the clean tornado came in. But it was amazing. And I look at that, right? And I'm like, wait, what? How did you do that? I'll go into a space, and trust me, my workspace now, it doesn't look like when she was done with it. So, and I'll go into a space like that and I'll say, okay, I got to clean up. Okay, where do I put this? Oh, I'll put that there. But where do I put that? Let me try that. It'll just become like an overwhelming thing for me because I don't know where to put stuff to move things. And, it's crazy. But yet she can walk in and just see immediately, the end, I guess, of the process and okay, bam, bam, bam. It's bizarre. So I'm talking about things like that, right? Where you have some gift, some ability to do things, and it's just easy and it's fun. All right. One of my spiritual daughters, who's often, here on the show, Franny. As a matter of fact, if you need an organizer, she does that full time, and I'll hook you up. And she's excellent as well. But having that kind of thing, she discovered that as well and started to function in it and just get so much joy out of doing it. So I want to encourage you to make that list. But here's where it gets to, where the rubber hits the road, I guess, right? For every single one of those that you've listed, right? I want you to assess yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 means not at all and 10 means full, taking full initiative. And you're going to assess yourself on where you are in terms of whether you're taking any initiative to actually work that particular talent or gift, that ability that you have. Are you doing anything with it? That's really what you're asking yourself. Make it a scale of 1 to 10, pick a number that makes sense to you. And, if that number is like, I don't know, 6 or less, you're honestly not fulfilling your potential. It's just that easy to look and see, yeah, you know what? I'm really not fulfilling that area of my potential. And listen, I'm speaking to myself, as a musician, as a songwriter. I've been neglecting that side of my creative capacity now for a while because I got focused on other things. But lately the Lord's been, kind of nagging me and saying, get back to that. That's important. I gave you that ability, gave you that talent to write songs and to sing and to create music and whatnot. So yeah, I've got to now start making time for that particular kind of creativity that I'm now, responsible for. And I want to encourage you to do that. What do you need to do? What do you need to change in your life that will allow you to increase your intentional work in those areas that God has gifted you with talents, with gifts, with abilities, right? What needs to change? Right? What are the steps that you need to take in order to become more focused on those things? Because honestly, when you do and you start to move in that, it's an amazing thing. And if you've done it in the past, you know what I'm talking about. You know how awesome it is to be engaged in a creative process and enjoy, all that goes along with it. Yeah, there can be work involved. Obviously, it's not just, you know all fun and games. There's work involved, but it's different. It's work that just like, wow, it's just, yeah, this is good. So let me stop there. I'm like, whoo, going way long. And as you can tell, I love talking about this, and we could be here till noon. But so let me stop there, and you've got enough to chew on for a while. We'll see where we go tomorrow. But yeah, so let me say good morning to the rest of this awesome breakfast club that is here with us today. My goodness. Um, I'm trying to know where I left off. If I neglect to say your name, please forgive me. It's not intentional. Okay. Let's see. Callie, good morning. Joanne, good morning. Christine, good to see you. There's Maria. How are you? Bernadette, good morning. Allison, nice to have you along today. Ralph and Rosa, nice and warm down there in Florida. All right. Whoa, Yasmin. Bom dia. Tudo bem? Good to see you from Brazil. Man, haven't seen you in a long time. Robin, good morning. There's Franny. I was just talking about you. I'm not sure if you heard me, but I told everybody that you're an organizer. Just look for from clutter to clarity. Do a search on that on Facebook and you'll find her. Oh my goodness. So thank you all. I appreciate so much that you hang out with me like this. It's just such an awesome thing. Hey, if you would be a share bear buddy and just share it with your friends. I'd like to get a few others to find out about our breakfast club. And again, if you'd like to reach out, this is what I do, right? I help people get clarity on who they are, what you're called to, and then how to start to move toward that, how to get from where you are to where God wants you to go. That's kind of my calling, and I love it. It's so much fun. So until tomorrow, you have an awesome day. If you're up here, stay warm. If you're down south, enjoy. And, we'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern. Till then, you be blessed.